All right, what's going on? Welcome back to Frankly Frank. And now that the World Cup's over, I thought it would be good to go over the biggest controversies, off-field controversies of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And this go over, like, in my opinion, how controversial I think it was, off-field issues. And kind of they do kind of relate to on-field issues, but some of them go into go deeper into off-field stuff. Um, I've ranked these from least controversial, like some of them are really just opinionated, to I think actual huge controversial ideas and opinions. So I kind of made it very broad, and there's going to be different segments of stuff that I talk about, different controversies that go into it. So let's get started. So yeah, biggest off-field controversies of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. How controversial were they? I'm a teacher, so I love making myself some presentations. So we have this, it's a Google Slides to actually show off what really is most controversial and what's not. So, my opinion, the least controversial thing that happened at this World Cup were the concerns that the fields were going to be terrible. And a lot of these concerns stemmed from before the World Cup. I think even from last year, from the Club World Cup, that the pitches weren't that good. And then a lot of friendlies right before the World Cup, especially the England friendly that played at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium, where I saw so many English fans complaining and going, "Wow, the fields are horrible. We can't be playing on these fields. What is America doing?" Um, and it was all over exaggerated. The fields were great. If I had to point one issue I did have with the fields, is the final should not have been played at MetLife Stadium. It should have been played in Dallas, or it should have been played in LA. MetLife Stadium, or New York, New Jersey Stadium, was a horrible place to have the final. But you can't have um you can't have everything. And I do think FIFA and the United States did a very good job at making sure the fields were ready by the time the World Cup started. I don't think there was really any issues with the pitches. I think any issues with the pitches were very minor, and I think they were mostly fine. People were even saying, "I was like, oh, these are they're replacing these turf last minute." No, these fields have had grass for at least a month beforehand. All the pitches, and as an American football fan, I'm annoyed that some of these stadiums are going back to turf fields because grass is just so much better. Um, and I think this is one where fans definitely over exaggerated, and that's why I think it was the least controversial one, because fans were over exaggerating, and really, the fields are great. The fields are great. Um, and I think a lot of the complaints came from, especially from the English, that they like their stadiums a certain way. They like them very close and compact, a bit more old school type field, and that's not really what the World Cup is about. You want to get as many people into the stadiums as possible and have the fields in good condition. Like, these are amazing stadiums, and I saw a lot of videos, reactions of English people at the game saying, "Yeah, the stadiums are amazing." And frankly, in my opinion, the two worst stadiums at the World Cup were MetLife, and I hate to say it as a 49er fan, Levi Stadium. It's just not a good venue for a World Cup game. There's so many better venues you could pick instead of Levi's. But that's a whole another video on why I think Levi Stadium is a complete dump and shouldn't even exist in the first place. But I think overreaction. Um, Fields were fine and stadiums were fine. Second one, Americans don't like soccer. Many people predicted before the World Cup that there would be poor atmosphere because American supporters don't care about soccer. And that the stadiums would not fill up, but that was mostly because of another reason that I'll get into later down the line. But fan festivals were packed, sports bars, hotels, Airbnbs were full of supporters. I saw many YouTube videos, many just stuff in my Instagram reel of Americans partying it up, drinking with the people who came in to watch the World Cup. Boston was an amazing host city. New York's always going to be good as kind of like the United States' capital of international just travel and affairs. Miami, like all these places are going to be good. And as someone who lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, it sucks that we didn't really have that because the stadium is so far away from San Francisco. It's down by San Jose, and San Jose is not really a good party. Like it's not as like good and like I don't know sociable as San Francisco can be. Um, I only saw positive interactions. I mean, there's always gonna be negative interactions between people no matter what. But I think majority of it, America was good hosts. I did see a lot of time where people were like, the Americans were very friendly, and we are very friendly. We like to talk, maybe a bit too much, but we're very friendly, and we do like to get to know people, especially when they're from out of country. And the atmosphere was praised. It was good. It was good. We were good hosts when it came to making sure the guests were treated fairly in the World Cup, mostly. But this is another one where just people are like stereotyping Americans where oh they're not gonna get involved in the World Cup. I do think a lot of casual or not even casual, just Americans who don't watch soccer got behind and enjoy the World Cup. I mean, think about like Scotland and Boston, Algeria with the um, town in Kansas, or was it Missouri? I can't remember which. That old woman with the French national team. Americans, we love this stuff. We really do love this stuff. Um, and I was bummed I really didn't get to experience it. And but that I will get to experience it. But you can look at many YouTube videos of people vlogging, of Europeans vlogging their time, interacting with Americans, partying with Americans. There's a funny video I saw of some I think they're English YouTubers who were like got to New York the night before the Knicks won the finals and ended up going out and partying with them in New York City after the Knicks won the finals. So it's just good stuff, and it really soccer, football, it does bring the world together. Even though there's always going to be people who are going to talk shit, complain about the host, or even just America as a whole. Um, as you can see, I'm not really also including Canada or Mexico because I don't really have a say in that because I am not Canadian or Mexican. So I would let them decide if they did a good job or hosting or not. I do think they both did a good job hosting. That's if you don't think that, but I do think they did a good job hosting. Travel and logistics. This one was actually one of my concerns before. It's a 3-country tournament. The first time we've ever had a 3-country tournament. It's also a very massive travel distance. And flying right now is very expensive because of all the crap going on in the world. And you really could have to choose: are you just going to stay in a city, or are you going to travel? Are you really going to travel the team and pick and choose what games you go for? I'll be surprised if there was anyone that saw every game that came here overseas. There's probably people. There's millionaires everywhere in the world. And this question kind of was about whether this format is sustainable for future World Cups, because they're talking about having the 2030 World Cup with the first like Uruguay, like the group state Uruguay, Argentina, and then like Morocco, Spain, and Portugal or something like that. I do think it's feasible, but you also got to think about logistics. This idea they're having for 2030, I don't know if it's gonna work. Other than just Spain, Morocco, and Portugal, that would work. That would 100% work. But I do think it would have been. This was one of those other concerns that wasn't that ended up being not that big of a deal. If you wanted to go see your team play, you saw your team play. If you couldn't afford it, you saw what you can afford. And I know for a lot of World Cups, because countries are smaller, that's not really the case. But for this World Cup, it was. I do think it is a concern, especially if we want more expanded World Cups with more host nations, where you may have to get multiple visas. It does become a concern. But I think it was handled as good as it could for this World Cup. And once the World Cup started, I didn't really hear any complaining about it. And that's kind of why I think like the fields, the American fans and travel are like the 3 least controversial ones on this list. The rest of them I do think are actually like go into like actual controversy like levels. Um but these 3 fields, Americans, fans, and travel and logistics, not that controversial in the grand scheme of things. Americanization and commercialization. This was a big topic for the World Cup final that just happened yesterday. Um, a few of these actually annoyed me as well. Celebrity appearances every game. This actually annoyed the crap out of me, and I know it annoyed the crap out of a lot of fans. I don't want you to pan to fans in the stands, and they're just a bunch of random celebrities. I want you to show me just the random fans celebrating, or as FIFA used to do in the past, get the perviest cameraman to show like the hottest woman in the crowd. They used to do that all the time. They didn't do it as much this World Cup. I don't care if Matt Damon or Will Ferrell's at the game. I could give two craps if they're at the game. I want to see the genuine fan who's there to support their country. Not some celebrities who are just there because they have the money to do so. That's not what the game's about. Heavy sponsorship. People were complaining about this as well, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. FIFA always sponsors the World Cup heavily. I think it does become an issue later on when I'm gonna talk about it in a minute. But we do get a debate over whether entertainment was taking priority over football, and like if FIFA was changing the identity of the World Cup with the first ever halftime show at the World Cup, which you can compare it to the American Super Bowl, and water breaks every game. So let's talk about water breaks every game first. I think it's the most stupidest idea that FIFA's ever had. I know they had it in Qatar. I know it existed in Brazil in 2014, but it was only existed when it reached a certain weather requirement. Why are we having match breaks, water breaks, when we are in a climate controlled stadium where the roof is on and it's a nice 70 degrees in the stadium? Like, I get it if it's like 90 degrees or higher, you know, like 35 degrees Celsius, maybe even 30 degrees Celsius, if we want to use Celsius, if we want to talk about Celsius. But I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's it's one of those things that I don't think is necessary for the game. It doesn't make the game better at all having these water breaks. I do think it led to some interesting tactics throughout the game and how they change. But the way these water breaks are adding, it adds 3 minutes on to the end of half. So I don't fully understand what they're doing. If it's an actual break, just stop the clock. I don't get why it has to become additional time. Also, if you're like climatized stadiums, why is it needed? It's just for FIFA to, use their sponsorships and make more money. Also, it's the American companies. Fox used it and played ads throughout the World Cup. I know Telemundo did. I can't speak for in Britain and the United Kingdom. I don't know what ITV or the BBC did, but I know in America, Telemundo stayed on the game and just had the broadcasters commentate over it, while Fox went to commercials every single time. And part of me wants to make a video about the Fox commentating stuff, but I don't know if that's necessary. I just know I prefer Telemundo. I will always prefer Telemundo. And then let's get to the halftime show at the World Cup. This is one thing that I knew a lot of people would hate when it was first announced that there would be a halftime show. And I was one of those people. And FIFA said this halftime show would last about 12 minutes. I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. So I was thinking probably like at most 20-minute halftime, which is still it should only be 15 minutes. So I'm like, 5 extra minutes, I can live with that. It still sucks. The halftime show was about 27 minutes, and then about 30-ish total minutes of halftime. That's not okay. This isn't the NFL. This isn't the Super Bowl. And I like the NFL. I like the Super Bowl. I like everything it stands for. I made a video about that came out probably when the World Cup was still going on yesterday. We don't need all this glitz and glamour. It's not what it's about. It's about getting the player. We want to see the players. I don't care to see Justin Bieber or everyone else who performed, Shakira, Madonna. I'm blanking on the Korean boy band. Oh my god, I know BTA, right? Isn't it BTA? BSA, whatever. BTA, I think it is. And you know what it did? It ruined the beautiful name of the Muppets. I can't believe the Muppets agreed to do this. The Muppets should know better. I saw a lot of slander on X, Twitter, for this, and I was like, hey, I agree with you, but let's not slander the Muppets. Okay, they're owned by Disney. Disney likes the money. Okay, so let's not slander the Muppets. Um, I do wonder if FIFA is going to keep either of these two things, that the halftime show or the water breaks. I did see FIFA make a post say the first ever halftime show, so it makes it sound like they want to do more. If I had to get rid of one, I'd get rid of the water breaks and keep the halftime show. I feel like that's the lesser of two evils. Get rid of the water breaks unless they're absolutely necessary in terms of like the heat and exhaustion. Um, um, but yeah, I think it's the lesser of two evils. But I don't think the halftime show is necessary. So Americanization, commercialization, probably the first one that I actually think is genuinely controversial. Like all these stuffs, celebrity appearances, the sponsorship, and like really if FIFA's like actually prioritizing the entertainment over the actual soccer, and that leads to the halftime show and water breaks. I do think this is actually controversial territory now. And then this one, it starts on the pitch and it leads to off the pitch stuff. And I didn't place it higher because I didn't think we saw it in the semifinal or really in the final. It became one of the tournament's biggest talking points. It seemed like every controversial VAR decision went Argentina's way. And I know this is talking about on the pitch stuff, but people made a big like all this VAR stuff is on the decision. But what becomes off the pitch stuff is just VAR itself, how to properly use VAR, and people throughout, even like announcers were joking about it, and it became like a very big public talk. Like how Messi and Argentina had favoritism, and the referees weren't being consistent with the calls, and this led to a lot of conspiracy theories that, as me as a fan, you just get so tired of hearing. Um, and Argentina is not likable, so if it made like it was hard to justify the criticism, or was it just simply just fueled by Argentina being successful? I think this one's controversial, just be the fact that like there is proof behind it, and if we go into the all on field decisions that kind of Argentina had go their way, especially against Egypt, um, you could feel like, hey, there maybe is something here. But it's a weird one. I think it's controversial, and I do think it's important if we're, especially because Infantino loves Messi, he loves Argentina. But I like, maybe now that I'm thinking about it, if I were to rank these again, I would have this ranked below, or I guess above. It's less controversial than the Americanization and commercialization. That now that I'm thinking about it, and this is the one that probably pissed me off most as a fan. Is we have I call it Ticket Gate. It's and the getting tickets for the World Cup through FIFA may be the most frustrating, exhausting bullshit thing that has ever existed. They had a lottery system where you put your name in a lottery, and if you got through the lottery, you could buy tickets. I remember right when the FIFA tickets, the lottery went on sale, me and my brother and my dad all signed up for it, and we didn't get one, which was annoying. And then the dynamic pricing, depending on the game, tickets are going to price a certain amount. Supply equals demand. More supply. If the supply for it's higher, the demand for them is going to be higher. You can sell them at a higher cost, and that leads to more expensive tickets. And the hospitality packages taking priority, which obviously is for people who have money, are able to go to the games because they have the money. And even yet, there was still some empty premium seats. You could see it throughout many of the, not maybe more so the group stages, where there was some premium seats empty because people could not afford the ticket pricing. The ticketing app issues. This people sometimes the tickets wouldn't show up in their ticketing app through the FIFA app. Resale restrictions. FIFA had a very strict way on how you're allowed to sell the tickets. And this is the most important thing. Many fans felt priced out of the World Cup. I was priced out of the World Cup. I regret not going to a World Cup game. I could have gone to a few games at Levi Stadium, the San Francisco Bay Area Stadium. But let's face it, those games weren't really that good. But I still could have had the opportunity to go to a World Cup. I could have seen Qatar, Switzerland play. I think that was at Levi's. I could have seen Austria Jordan. Was that? Yeah, I could have seen a few games at Levi's for less than $300. But it was just like the game. Those games. I should have gone, but what I really wanted to do was go to a US game in LA, and I could have, but the cheapest tickets for the two games the USA had in LA were about $1,000, and then the round of 32 game for the USA, which was at Levi Stadium in the San Francisco Bay Area, the cheapest ticket was about $1,200. I'm a teacher. It's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money for everyone. And part of me regrets it, but it fuels the fire for me to go to a next World Cup when I have a bit more money saved up. But I know a lot of people were pissed off about this. I was pissed off about it. I feel like FIFA is definitely licking their lips with how much money they made. I saw a post on Twitter X that let's just say the average ticket was about $500. And I think, and they showed the attendance on the screen. It was like, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but they made about, with just ticket sales, I think over $1 billion just on ticket sales, which is an insane amount. You made more GD, like you made GD, you probably made more than some countries' GDP. It's insane, just on ticket sales. And that doesn't include everything else, that FIFA advertisements, all that stuff. FIFA made a frick ton of money, and they could still made them a lot of money. This was a 48 team World Cup. There was over 100 games. It was about 40 more than the prior World Cups we've had. 40 more games. And they made it, and the tickets were the most expensive they've ever been. I am hoping for the World Cup in 2030. I could buy a ticket. I'm fine paying for airfare to go overseas in 4 years from now. I'll be 31. I know that's insane. That's insane. Will I be 31? I'm about to turn. Wait, hold on. What? I'm 27. I turn 28 in a week. This less than a week. 2020. Yeah, I'll be 31. About to turn. I'll about to turn 32. I will be about to turn 32. This is a big one for me. This was really a big one for me, where I felt FIFA is showing their controversy, showing their corruptness in a big way. The second one, this is an on-field controversy that turned into an off-field controversy. Ballogate, Flo Balogun's red card controversy. He gets a red card against Bosnia and Herzegovina. He gets a suspension. And then the Sunday before the game, about 48 hours before the game, the suspension is overturned. Oh, I'm in the way of Balogun. I'm sorry, Balogun. Let me get out of Balogun's way. There we go. Okay, I gotta show Balogun. Suspension's overturned. And then Trump claims that he talked to Infantino about the suspension being lifted. And this questions FIFA's independence and what the hell they're doing. Never before have we seen a president of a country or leader of a country intervene with FIFA's decision. And I think this was the biggest mistake that FIFA made involving an actual World Cup, like a World Cup result. And it's a huge controversy where it's just like, why are you rescinding a red card? That's never been done before. And the president of the United States has talked to the FIFA president. And it's showing, it makes like the allegations of political interference seem very big. It's huge. It is so huge, in my opinion, that like going into the game, like I felt like crap. Even though I was like, we're gonna still win. We didn't win, but I was like, oh man, it's just like now it's just like it's political controversy now. It just makes you feel bad. And I know there's a lot of people, including I think United States players, that just felt bad about this and didn't think it changed their entire attitude. And it's the biggest scandal, in my opinion, involving a game, involving any team in the country. It's huge. It's a huge scandal. And I think it's really is embarrassing that this happened. That FIFA gave in to the president of the United States and allowed a red card to get overturned, which they have never done before. It's stupid. It's stupid and uncalled for. And then number one, most controversial thing, it's always going to be politics. Visa denials. And you may gotta wonder with the visa denials, how like, why were these people's visas being denied? What was the reason for these visas being denied? We'll move you up here for now. We're just gonna move across the screen. So many visas were denied in Africa, some South American, Asian for Iranians, and some with Iranian players. I'll actually get there in a minute. Immigration concerns, especially with ICE going along in the United States, people were concerned about getting deported. I didn't hear anything about that, so we could really just scratch that one off the list. I didn't hear anyone getting deported. For that, Omar Artin, who was a referee, Somalian referee, who wasn't allowed to enter the United States and referee. Thomas Partey's travel issues. This is a non-issue in my opinion because he is going through a case for rape, or sexual assault, if you want to call it that. And that was in Canada, not the United States, but I don't think that's included. The Artin one, it was alleged. It was never confirmed. I mean, I guess it is confirmed. The United States said, the government said so, but it doesn't mean it's true. That he had ties to terrorist groups, but still. And then Iran, political discussions surrounding his participation. Iran wasn't allowed to stay in the United States, which became very unfair, and they had to go back and forth between United States and Mexico. USA gave for games, Mexico for practice, and as well as many political protests that happened through the World Cup. The most recent one was Argentina displaying their Falkland Islands political banner, which by FIFA's laws is illegal, and the United States government said, hey, in our country, because you have free speech, they're allowed to do that, which is kind of interesting, seeing how Iranian supporters weren't allowed to have the Iranian flag with the lion on it at games, which by Americans' laws that should follow free speech. So it's just odd that what the American government picked and choose to what to be involved in. So yeah, FIFA enforces political neutrality rules and consistency, and then the United States government chose how to back it up inconsistently as well. And it raises more questions about whether FIFA draws the line between national pride and political messaging. But this kind of is like, it's 50-50 on America and FIFA, where I guess that's the entire World Cup. It's 50-50 America, 50-50, 50% America, 50% FIFA. I feel like that's a good way to say the entire World Cup, because not all this is America's fault. I would say about half of it is. But that leads me to my next point, because that's all the controversies we're really going to talk about. That's it. So going back from the controversies, going from the most controversial to least controversial, the fields. I would say the United States and FIFA did a good job on this. Same with the fans. Fan zones were good. I mean, Americans did a great job of supporting other countries in the World Cup. Travel and logistics, I think America did as good a job as it could. This is a horrible job. Honestly, this one, now that I think about it, this one could maybe be higher. Well, it is higher because I switched this one. Actually, this one goes first for Argentina. I think this one just depends how you view the game. I think FIFA could have done a better job on this. Americanization and commercialization. The game was being commercialized and it was Americanized to appease an American audience. Water breaks, halftime show, it's not needed. This is huge on FIFA, and I do think this does play a factor in the United States, where I don't think other countries would allow tickets pricing to be this expensive, while the United States knows, hey, fans are going to pay for this. Let's try and get a bit of money in on this. This is a complete mess by the American government and FIFA, and this is pretty 50-50 on how the American government kind of backed up FIFA when they wanted to, and sometimes didn't say anything involving FIFA. So, the United States will host a World Cup again. I think it'll be very obvious just how FIFA is doing these World Cups, where the 2030 World Cup's being hosted in South America for the opening matches, so that counts as South America hosting, Africa with Morocco, and Europe with Europe with Portugal and Spain. So that means the 2034 World Cup can only be hosted in Asia, which means the 2038 World Cup, unless any other CONCACAF country wants to host it and has the facilities to host it, it's gonna be back in the United States in 2038. I think that's pretty obvious, but FIFA needs to stop Americanizing every chance they get. And they need, and the United States as a whole, it needs to learn from this one. What works, what doesn't work, as a host nation. Also, the political climate does play a factor in this. Um, so you're gonna have to wait and see until what the political climate is in 2038. Also, the world, mostly the British, you need to stop complaining when one little thing is different. Um, I'm on your side when it comes to the halftime show, and water breaks. But really, guys, complaining about the fields before you even see the field. You're complaining about a World Cup stadium, a non-World Cup stadium that your FA chose to play at. Come on. But at the end of the day, I'm very nitpicky with my own country. But I think it was a very good World Cup, but it could still be a lot better. And that's why I give the United States part of the World Cup hosting a 7 out of 10. So a C minus. I think it's a C minus grade. I think the fan atmosphere was amazing. I think a lot of fans enjoy their time in the World Cup. I think a lot of what falls flat though is like the politics side of thing, and then the Americanization side of everything. And I think, like I said, 50% goes to FIFA, and 50% of it goes to the United States as a country that kind of backs up FIFA with every little decision. So that was a lot of talking. And I think I did a good job explaining everything, but that's kind of it for the video today. So thank you so much for watching. I do kind of like these presentation style videos with me yapping. I mean, that's kind of my job. So I'm good at just yapping and talking. So let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching.